So, as we all know, over the weekend, Shakur Stevenson is now the unified WBC and WBO, and as well as the Ring Magazine Junior Lightweight Champion at 130 pounds, or Super Featherweight, as some people call it, after defeating Oscar Valdez. It was a very good win from Shakur Stevenson, and apparently, Mr. Bob Arum, who promotes Shakur, looks like he has no interest in trying to make Stevenson undisputed champion of the world at 130 pounds. If you go to Boxing Scene, Boxing Scene recently wrote an article, as you guys can tell by the headline, Arum on Stevenson, fuck being the unified champion, those fight aren't gonna draw shit. If you read the article, Bob Arum was talking about fuck being unified champion. And then he goes on to say, I quote, it reads, screw that. That's not a person in this room. There's not a person in this room that knows the WBA champion or the IBF champion. So who wants to put those fights on? They're not going to draw shit. To those who don't know, the the WBA champion right now is Roger Gutierrez. Roger Gutierrez is this man right here. He became champion after defeating Rene Alvarado, not once but twice, in 2021, which was a very good year for Roger Gutierrez. Came out of nowhere from Venezuela, and now he's a world champion. The IBF champion is Kenichi Ogawa, 34 years old from Japan. He became world champion after defeating Azinga Fuzile of South Africa, and that was a pretty good win. And that took place back in November. Right now, Ogawa will most likely fight, I think, Joe Cordina, and Roger Gutierrez will most likely fight Hector Garcia, I believe, after Garcia beat Chris Colbert. I mean, if we look at the division right now, 130 pounds, no doubt in my mind, Shakur Stevenson's the best fighter at 130, and we have Kenichi Ogawa holds at IBF and Roger Gutierrez holds at WBA. I always think and I always say that the goal of a champion is to be undisputed. Stevenson is definitely the favorite to beat Ogawa and Roger Gutierrez, and in my opinion, he can definitely beat these guys. It's not a risky fight, in my opinion. So I don't understand why Bob Arum doesn't want to make these fights. The only reason why I could think of is that these guys are over at different networks. Roger Gutierrez mostly works with PBC now, it looks like, and Ogawa works mainly with he's signed with Matchroom and The Zone. So that's the only reason why Bob Arum is saying this shit. It's because he can't. It will be hard for him to make these fights. It's not an in-house fight similar to, let's say, Stevenson versus Conceição. Both fighters are under top rank. Because I honestly think that's most likely the fight we'll see next for Shakur. It's against Conceição. So, Bob Arum, man, he's an old man who's been around for a long time. He knows what he's saying. And, he's trying to make you think that there are better fights out there for Shakur Stevenson. There are at 135 pounds, but if he's going to fight at 130, definitely fight for a world title. And he goes on to say here, and I quote, Bob Arum said, Shakur can defend titles against other fighters at 130. There's a lot of good fighters that he can fight at 130, not these jabrones that are champions of the WBA and the IBF. He's trying to make people think that, a fight between Shakur and Kenichi Ogawa and Shakur against Roger Gutierrez don't really mean much, and that there's no sense of making those fights, but there is. These two fighters, Roger Gutierrez and Kenichi Ogawa, hold those two belts that Shakur is currently missing to become undisputed champion of the world. Don't get me wrong, I think Shakur is definitely the best fighter right now at 130. But to solidify yourself more in your legacy, for people to remember you and for people to recognize you more, being undisputed is the goal. And it's not an easy goal. Lately there's been a lot of undisputed champions lately, but over the history of boxing, there hasn't really been that many undisputed champions in terms of this four belt era, in the four belt era. So if I were Shakur and his team, obviously try to make the fights first with Ogawa and Roger Gutierrez. But like I said, Ogawa will most likely fight Joe Cordina. Roger Gutierrez will most likely fight Hector Garcia first. So I guess while they're doing their own thing, Shakur will most likely fight Conceição. So, but hopefully, eventually, Shakur will become undisputed at 130 before he moves up to 135. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. You know, be undisputed in every single weight. And Shakur definitely has the talent and the career right now to become undisputed in every division that he moves up to in the future. Right now, imagine him ending his career being undisputed at 130, and then eventually being undisputed at 135, 140, 147, 154. He definitely has the frame to go all the way up to 154. Heck, maybe even 160. But imagine he becomes undisputed in each division. Definitely would solidify himself in the all-time greats if he does that. No one has ever done that, being undisputed in multi-divisions. That would be insane. And Shakur definitely has the talent to do that. And hopefully he realizes that and tells his team that undisputed is the goal. Anyway, just thought I'd share my thoughts. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And like always, have a great day. All right, thanks.